Okay, and that's the objective standard. You go and save this kid. Correct me if I'm wrong. That kid survives. It is good. That is the right cause. Correct?
Yeah, I hope so. Unless he grows up to be the next Hitler, I guess it wouldn't have been a good thing, but I don't know that. I'm just going to act on what I can do and know.
Well,
but I still, like, what does objective mean to you? What does the word objective mean?
So I'm trying to understand. So are you saying that through with what you define as objective, would you agree that you can't have any subjective interpretations to that objectability?
I think I could have my own interpretation of something. I don't see why not.
So that's what I'm trying to. So with that, with the case of the drowning kid, you can choose whether you want to or not, but the right thing to do would be save the kid, correct?
Yeah. And do you agree? Do you agree the right thing to do is save the kid?
Yes. So I don't understand why
is God not saving the kid then? I'm not the one not saving the kid, man.
So I don't understand.
I think I can help, bridge this gap here. I think what Smocrates is arguing essentially is that if, and we're using the analogy of the kid drowning to illustrate this, but that essentially God is all powerful from what I understand from the Christian view, which is what I believe you're arguing. God is all powerful so that he always has the ability to save someone, right? And there wouldn't be any risk to him, like you guys were speaking about earlier. There wouldn't be any risk, so it would stand to reason that it would always be the right thing for him to intervene, I think is what Socrates is arguing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it would always be the case for, it would be necessary for God to intervene 24/7. Okay, I understand where this is the case, but I'm trying to understand if this is the case, why is it that why do you think it is good? That's why I was trying to understand your definition of good and bad. With that pertaining to the case, God, I agree that God can intervene, but deeming that good or bad, what gives you the that would you agree that if the child died and you say, oh, this child, died, that means God is evil, that would be a presupposition, or that's a position of what you would say is bad.
You want to know why?
Why?
Because I'm doing an internal critique and I'm using his own standard. I'm not using mine. I'm not critiquing him on mine. I'm critiquing him on his own.
So, can you underline what his own standard is for me? Like,
save a drowning kid if you can with no risk to yourself. Is that not an objective moral duty?
Yes, I would say that, but I'm trying to.
Like, that's it, dude. You know, if that's an objective moral duty to him, not me, to him. Now, I would agree you should save the kid. I don't say it's objective, but I would agree. But I'm using his. So stop trying to say that how am I judging this? I'm telling you exactly how I'm judging this over and over. I'm using his.
God, and that's why I said on premise, correct me if I'm wrong, premise 4, premise 4, does God do the objective moral duties? And that's why I disagree. I feel like that doesn't have anything to do with God. It's something, God upholds what is morality, but that is under your interpretation of what to do. If he upholds it and says this is...
You're doing it again, dude. I just finished telling you. I'm not going off my interpretation. It's his.
So can you give me... What do you think his standards are? I'm trying... Can I understand that?
Is it an objective moral duty to save a drowning child if you can at no risk to yourself?
I would say yes, it is. I'm trying...
That's the standard I'm using right there.
How is that? Okay, matter of fact, can I... How is that a standard?
You tell me. Is that not the standard that God uses?
I don't see where you can say... So with God saying this is how it should be, we see God do a lot of things, and what I'm saying is, if God's nature is good, it's all good, okay, who are you to say that this is bad and this is... So, for example, God flooding the earth. If God's nature is good, him flooding the earth would be good. So if you say the unflooding of the earth would be good, that doesn't underline the fact that God's nature is good and the flooding of the earth would be good. So if that child were to die, then it still would pertain to the fact, if you were to say that that is that child living would have been good, and that child dying is God's nature of good, who are you to say that? So that's what I'm trying to state. I think we were getting confused on that.
Oh wait, this sounds like we're going to the greater good idea again. And I asked you a second question about like that. Will God save the child if it's not for the greater good that the child drowns? Right? Like, say that kid's going to grow up, he's going to cure cancer. So would God save that child if he's going to do good things?
If you're saying God would save that child, I am saying...
No, I'm asking you if God would save the child if it was for the greater good that the child lived.
I don't know. That would be something that I guess would be God. So, if God's nature is good,
there's a bit of a disconnect. I think JC, what he's trying to ask you is, what would God consider good? And if we're going to go by what God would consider good, then would he follow whatever rule that he would put in place for you as far as saving the child?
Then I would say yes to that. Are you saying, like, correct me if I'm wrong, if God is all good, the case would be that if I were to, I would be the goodness saving this child, right? Is it kind of like that? Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to understand it better.
Well, if the child drowning is for the greater good, right? And God knows that, but I don't. Then we have a problem of if I save this child, maybe that wasn't the best thing. I might have prevented the greater good, right? And then I asked the question if God would save the child if it was for the greater good that the child be saved. Because if you grant that as well, then what I should do logically is sit there and watch and see if God saves the child, because I'm guaranteed that the greater good comes about. And if I intervene, I might actually stop the greater good from coming about. But you said you don't know if God will save the child if it's for the greater good, so that's mute.
I want to bring up like an analogy. I don't know if it would work pertaining to it, but let's say um, there is a child, or there's a child in this girl's womb, and she is about to give birth to it. Um, let's say matter of fact, let's say um, their decision was to matter of fact, I messed up. Not about to give birth, but let's say a woman has a child and she makes the decision to get an abortion. Okay. Um, with that being the case, she is about to get an abortion, but let's say she has a miscarriage before she gets the abortion. Um, would it be the case that um, the would it be the case that the lady that was about to get the abortion, um, would she have been wrong um, if she had gotten the abortion as opposed to just letting the miscarriage happen? I don't know if you can kind of get where I'm going with this, but
Would it have been wrong if she didn't have or if she never had the miscarriage and had the abortion, as compared to if she had the miscarriage? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm I'm not much of a against abortion being happening. I could never go and tell somebody, hey, you got to have that child. That's the whole reason. I don't really debate abortion very much, though.
Well, would she have been in the wrong though? Like if she had gotten the abortion, but God already had sent a miscarriage her way.
No, no, I don't think so, because it's her choice, unless it's beyond, what is it, 20 weeks or 24 weeks where they start to have consciousness. Then I think that's too long.
So would you say that if God's nature is good and that baby was the baby was saved from being already aborted, would you say that um, that is um, good for would that be good pertaining to the woman as well?
I'm kind of indifferent, really, unless she really wanted the child, because then it would be, horrible for her. But if she was going to abort it anyway, it seems kind of irrelevant.
And in the case, so God aborting this child would have been, or not God aborting it, but causing the miscarriage. I guess you can just say that would be just another term for abortion. In that being the case, would you say that since God's nature is good and Him having aborted this child or miscarried this child before the woman had aborted the child, um, then would you say that the nature is good all around?
No.
So why wouldn't it be the case if the lady was already going to get an abortion and the miscarriage happened before the abortion?
It seems kind of irrelevant. Either way, the child wasn't born.
So that's the whole case. The child isn't born, but the lady, the woman, she didn't want to have a child in the first place. She was gonna get it aborted, but the child isn't born. So isn't that a good thing for the woman?
Sure. Yeah, I guess she might look at it like a good thing.
Okay, so then if that's the case, that it's a good thing for the woman, and God's nature being good, happening to have miscarried this child, and she's thinking in her head, I was gonna get it aborted, but God already had miscarried it for me. Wouldn't she pertain this to one thing that God is good? Would you say?
Well, I mean, if she wants to look at it that way, but that's still, having to prove that claim would be a whole other thing. Whereas there are people that are drowning, there are people that are starving, and I don't see how that undoes God not doing those objective moral duties in those places.
Well, that's what I'm trying to. When you say God doesn't do this, and this is what I presuppose God does.
Dude, remember, it's not my presupposition, it's his.
That's what I'm trying to understand. If you say that is his presupposition, that's his standard, how do you know what his standard is to have then said that this is the opposite and this is what the standard should be?
Well, the first thing I do is I ask you.
Yeah.
That's why I actually ask those questions first. This is what it leads into. This is that's why I'm not coming at you from my position. Right? It's an internal critique.
And
just a question to kind of clear things up, JC. I think earlier Smocrates mentioned that he would be willing to accept your argument if you were arguing the divine command. Am I correct, Smocrates?
That is correct. I think divine command theory completely abolishes my argument here. You may still have other problems, but as long as you're not saying the word objective, no problem.
Yeah, so I think, JC, are you alluding to divine command, or are you making a different argument? Because I think that might be what the confusion is here somewhat. I think you might be arguing that God is what is good, but I think he's asking for what specifically God would command in certain situations, or what God would consider good in order to ask you the analogy and determine whether or not saving a child would be good or not. So he'd have to know your standard, and then he'd be questioning you based on that standard.
Oh yes, I was trying to pertain to that. I do believe God is like what's the person who sets the command, but that's what I was trying to get more into. If God is what sets the standard, how is it that you can, set the standard of what standard is already set, or if what standard is already, I don't really. You can ask me a question, your line of questioning. I'm trying to still understand like your basis, though.
Well, it's all based on the definition of the word objective. Right? That's the biggest foundation of my argument. That's why I say if you just say divine command theory, my argument blows up. And when I read the Bible, I don't see it really saying morals objective. I see it saying obey God's commands. I think divine command theory it is implied a lot more than objective morality in the Bible.
Well, I mean, that's I would say, like, as a Christian, that's the standard that we would believe God to have been in any sense. That's why I rejected your fourth premises with God doing it, and that's why I had claimed that him doing it, he didn't just not only do it. That was that could have totally been different. I agree with that, but he did it, and that's the that would be the case. But with God being that standard of what is set, um, he is ultimately. We can't presuppose that, so that's why I had asked you, why is it wrong, or well, I should have asked you more like this: why would it be wrong for the unflooding of the world if God's nature is good, and that is what God is in total?
Like, from killing all those innocent people. I mean, from my standard on this, like, you're asking me why is it wrong to commit genocide, right?
So,
right, you understand that's what you're basically asking me. And I just think it's obvious. It's bad to kill people like that.
So I don't see how. Okay. Can
Do you think genocide is a good thing or a bad thing?
So might I ask you? Can you?
Wait, I've been answering your questions. I want you to answer mine.
Okay.
Do you think genocide is a good thing or a bad thing?
Genocide is a bad thing.
Okay, well, when God flooded the earth, do you think that killed a lot of people and would be considered a genocide by some perspectives?
Well, this is why I would say, if you take any story from the Bible and put it in your premise to conclude God being evil, you will find out that men were men through their own interpretations were evil, and this never had anything to pertain to God as being the grounding for him being evil. It's more of if God's nature is good, you can't say something is the unflooding of the world, it would have been good.
So your moral standards change if they apply to God?
How did that become the case?
Well, I mean, that's been the case this whole time, isn't it? Like, we all have to save drowning people, but God doesn't. It's bad for us to commit genocide, but okay when God does it. God just is naturally good, so everything that he does is just naturally good kind of a deal. Is that not what you're saying?
I think we're confused on that line. I don't agree with that line of thinking. I'm more asserting the principle. Okay, um, this is why I would bring more a biblical standpoint to this. But like, for example, Jesus explaining love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as you love yourself. Simple rules to follow. But that being the case, do you think Hitler loved his neighbors like he loved himself?
Probably not, but I don't
Okay.
see how this gets to why God is able to not be applied to the objective moral standard. Like, that's the whole context of this debate, right?
And that's why, well, I will get back more to that, but with God being, well, with the contrary belief that Jesus is God, let's just say Jesus is God in this case. Would you say that Hitler, um, with him not loving his neighbors like he loves himself, would he be going against what God says?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think the people who are going against what God says make up whatever standard they believe is the truth and not what God says is the truth? Would you agree?
for the most part, but there is some dependence on that one. If you had like a Satanist who is just doing against what God says because he does know the rules, you know. But yeah, I agree generally.
Okay, so could you think of any situation where you and me would most likely team up to stop something going on in the world? Do you think there is something in this world that we both can agree is wrong and we should stop this act?
Oh yeah, I bet you we could find tons of stuff.
Okay, so would you agree that us going to stop Hitler would be a good thing?
Yeah, if there was a Hitler around, yeah.
Yeah, obviously. Thank
I
God.
think stopping world tyrants is a good thing.
I did want to make sure to check with both of you. They're coming up on the last half hour mark here. You both wanted to do like a question segment, right? You're both okay with doing like a question segment with the
I don't know. Has the crowd been asking many questions?
There were some people that wanted to come up and ask questions, I think, or come up to speak, but I haven't seen too many questions yet. I am gonna remind everybody that they can put in their questions.
This was not the date, just so everyone knows I'm also stage fright.
But just so if anybody does have any questions, make sure to put your questions in. You can ask about at question. And then if we did want to do a question segment, I just wanted to make sure we had time to do it. So like we can wrap up here in like 10, 15 minutes. If you guys are okay with that.
Brought to you by Discord.
Yeah, I think if we got some questions, I definitely want to get them.
Brought to you by Discord.
So I mean, you can continue here now, and then we could move into like closing statements in about like 5 minutes or so. We cool with that?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Feel free to continue.
You want to take it off, Rick?
Maybe we just move into the questions. Or do your closing statements. If you want to do a closing statement, then I'll do that.
We can do closing statements and then questions if you want.
Yeah.
So I would say for closing statement, with how this is perceived, this I think what we're getting off on the point of is how God is defined. I would say God is good in all of His nature, but what we propose is good. That is, underlined by what God says is good, and that Jesus is, well, like how I had mentioned in the beginning, that Jesus set forth that path to follow. With that being the case of Jesus being that path to follow, this can pertain to what we follow as right and what we draw the line to what wrong is. Now, with that being right or wrong, that standard of what God is, we can call good, and I would say that good is, or well, yeah, good is the absence of evil, and is just like how we look at the light analogy. I don't know how you would perceive good and bad to be, which is what I was trying to understand for your claims of what you understand good and bad to be. But from my understanding, good is what we see what we see God do, and that is that God is good in all of his nature and that Jesus has set that forth, and bad is going the opposite of what God has um, portrayed, or what God had, what we have portrayed God's goodness to have been. I would say with the with how you perceive God, that also is the standard of if this would be the case of what evil is. There's no like case for what you can say evil actually is, unless it's just what you believe evil is. Um, if you wanna take it off, I I'll just end it right there. And
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, for my closing statement, I'm just going to be, I think I made a good case for if something's objective, it should be applied to God. Just like in the chess example, you know, maker of chess, he's got to play by the rules as well. It's just done by the definition of objective.
All right.
But it was a good debate.
It was definitely a good debate. It was an interesting one. I do want to talk more if you would so wanting to have another conversation in the future. I just am interested in hearing people's viewpoints. I'm not totally really that person trying to push my belief on people, but rather understand their viewpoint. And it was an interesting conversation with you, and I look forward to having more.
Yep, sure, man.
Right. And with that, I guess we can move into questions. Is there? I'm not sure if I remember actually. How do we pull up the questions here?
Yeah, it's like /Q dump or something like that. I don't even know. Damn it, I can't even ask a question to get the question bought to take it, damn it. It worked the other day. Already forgot how. Well,
It's yeah, definitely. Still getting used to this myself. Let's see here to make sure. Because I'm also not sure we had too many people put in questions specifically. Doing to make sure I'm not missing anything though.
oh, there, CMFP did it. Yeah.
Okay, so
At question Q dump.
God, so did we have anything or?
Might not have.
Yeah, I think we didn't have anybody enter any questions. I know we did have some people that I know one of the ways I am used to doing it is like some people like to come up and ask their questions directly. Would you guys be okay with that? If anybody wanted to come up and ask any questions to you guys directly, since we don't seem to have anything in the chat.
If everyone wants to before we end it, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
So yeah, if any of you guys have questions, you can request to speak, I guess, and we can have you come up and ask your question directly, since we might not have asked the question bot. I know there was some people earlier. I don't know if they're still here.
Come on, y'all. Come on with the questions.
No questions from anybody?
Well, I don't think so.
Oh, Fireman Bill wants to speak.
Give Fireman
Yo,
Man, Bill.
would you say that the claim murder is wrong?
Who are you asking the question to first?
Socrates.
Sure. Okay.
Would you say that the claim murder is wrong, murder is right is a contradiction? Well, yeah. So both of those conditions can't exist at the same time, so murder is either wrong or right? Yeah. So that would mean that moral would be objective? Nope. Well, if one person says murder is right, murder is wrong, that's a contradiction, right? Yeah. So there is an objective truth as to whether it's right or wrong. Just because there's a contradiction when you say those two different things doesn't mean that morals are objective when you look at the one side. Well, I agree. I'm not saying that which one is true, but since both claims can't exist at the same time, because it would be a contradiction, that would mean that there must be an objective truth to it.
Say what?
Well, I mean, like, actually, CMFB just pointed out a good example. I was just trying to think of it. Chocolate ice cream is good. Chocolate ice cream is bad. If you have to choose one, therefore it's subjective? No, well, that's just a subjective judgment. But I'm saying that the moral claim of murder cannot be both right and wrong at the same time. Well, I agree with you that you can't have somebody who thinks chocolate ice cream is good and chocolate ice cream is bad at the same time either. Doesn't make it a but when you're talking about like objectively true statement, that would mean that it wouldn't be based upon a person's subjective interpretation of whether they think it's right or wrong. It'd just be like if I just say murder is right, murder is wrong, without a judgment of what makes it right and wrong, it would still be the case that it can't be both right and wrong. Yeah. Does that mean you're stating a contradiction? I don't know. Like, yeah, stating contradiction. Well, a contradiction can't exist in reality. So outside of the value judgment of the, like me saying that murder is right, or like a person's interpretation of that contradiction, wouldn't that mean that it just simply can't be the case in reality that the same referent can be both right and wrong at the same time? I'm not sure if all of that. Can you state that more clearly? Well, if we just use the referent murder, which is like an idea, it's like a metaphysical concept, right? It doesn't it's not real, but if we just use the idea of murder and we just call it the referent, and we say that the referent, regardless of human perception of this referent, it's either right or wrong. It can't be both. Well, as soon as you say minus a human referent, like minus any mind, well, I don't even know what to do with your question then. Well, I wouldn't say it's minus any mind, because after we agree that there is like an objective truth of the matter, then we can see if it derives from God. Let's see if we can get to some objective truth then. But we first would need to figure out whether the referent murder, since it can't be right and wrong at the same time, it must be objectively true that one of those things is true. Well, no, you're just making the same point that we've already established. Just because you say something in a contradictory way doesn't mean that it's objective, because you can't have the contradiction. Well, can contradictions exist in reality? No. Right. So the referent murder must either be wrong or right. It can't be both. Yeah, dude, blue can't be green, right? Do you agree?
Well, I don't think that's an accurate comparison. If you were comparing it to a color, you would say.
Questions and I answer them. I prefer to have.
No, but if you were going to compare it to a color, you would say blue versus not blue.
Okay. Let's ask a bunch of people if abortion is wrong, and we'll have a bunch of different answers then.
Yeah, but when you start talking about subjective judgments of the referent that you're talking about, of course, people are going to have different ideas about it. But that doesn't mean that the referent that you are referencing can be both true and false at the same time.
No, dude, contradiction can hold. Like, I agree, but that doesn't just because there's a contradiction doesn't make something objective. Like, I don't understand how you made the jump.
Just real quick, we do have somebody else who wants to come up and ask a question, so I'm going to give you a little bit more time, Fireman Bill. And just to clarify, the question you're asking, I think it might be better to add, like, always in your question. I think what you're asking is murder always wrong or right, right?
No. So I'm not even like passing a judgment on whether it is wrong or right. I'm not making that claim.
No, you're asking the question, right?
I'm not even asking that question. What I'm actually asking is, can murder be both wrong and right at the same time objectively?
Right. I think that the key to your question is when you say at the same time, because from, I think, Smocrates' stance, it would be somewhat subjective depending on the circumstance and whether it was murder or not. I think it's being debate.
Bring subjectivity into the claim of objectivity, then we're not talking about the same thing. But that's all right. I'll stick down.
All right. So next is Dylan the Illuminated.
Hi, my question is for Smocrates, just to continue the conversation before, because me and Smocrates always talk about this. Imagine if you used the same question, but instead of using the example of colors or anything else, let's talk about murder, right? So, Smocrates, do you think that, like, harvesting animals and murdering them, like, do you consider that to be murder, the harvesting of animals?
No, I think
okay.
Right now.
Perfect. No, wait, perfect. So you think it's not? A vegan would say yes. Perfect.
Yep.
This contradiction, even if a person has this contradiction, it doesn't show that there's an objective truth because there's still subjectiveness to the opinion of whether something is considered to be unjustified killing, right? And even so, there are human beings that can say that something is murder or something is not murder at the same time and have different opinions on it, right? Instead, if you apply a contradiction or a paradox to a situation all the time, of course, yeah, no, it doesn't make any sense. But that doesn't then mean that whatever the person says automatically means is objective, right? Because we wouldn't consider the truth that you just stated to be objective, right? Neither would we state that the vegan's opinion would be objective. I just thought that would be a better way to just present the argument that was presented that was really not that great.
Okay.
Bye. Thanks.
No problem.
Have a little bit of time left here.
All right. Topic is, are morals objective and from God?
Maybe just call it.
Yeah. Doesn't look like anybody has any more questions. So I think we can wrap it up here. Unless somebody comes up at the last second. So thank you guys for joining. It's a very interesting conversation. conversation. I think these two got a lot out of it. It's always good to have your ideas challenged. And with that, hopefully you can do this again sometime.
It was a good conversation, smoke great.
Yeah, definitely. That was actually not the normal way that goes. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, so always great when a conversation can end with everyone on good terms and interested in having further discussions. So with that,
every conversation has to end with good faith. That's one thing I always agree with.
Yeah. So with that, we'll end the stage here, and then if everyone wants to go to another channel and maybe continue the conversation, we can. But we're gonna end the stage here.
I'm going for a smoke. I'll catch you all later.
Yep, me too.
What is there really much more to talk about? I think these guys have talked long enough. That'll do it for this one.